Inside tech boardrooms, CEOs are currently weighing two options for their future. They can either shrink their workforce or stretch it. Companies like Meta and Amazon are aggressively cutting thousands of jobs to free up capital for AI infrastructure. On the company's internal ledger, the decision looks flawless. Stock prices rise as overhead vanishes. The spreadsheet registers a successful optimization, and the board moves to the next quarter. This logic is entirely rational within the walls of the corporation. However, it relies on a mindset of absolute scarcity, where success is measured by how much can be extracted from a shrinking pool of resources. The blind spot here is geographic. The company optimizes its internal ledger, but the physical location where those workers live is forced to absorb the massive, invisible cost of their departure. A layoff triggers an immediate 15-day survival gap. In those first 2 weeks, a worker burns through savings and severance just to maintain their household's baseline. Within months, the physical consequences manifest in the community. Missed utility payments lead to collections. Transit lines lose the ridership needed to stay solvent. Routine medical care is deferred until it turns into a crisis, forcing local hospitals to absorb the cost of uncompensated emergency visits. During this critical window of decline, the worker remains invisible to state systems. They have not yet reached the point of qualifying for Medicaid or appearing in official unemployment data. Legacy measurement systems like the Census or state ledgers detect this outmigration years after it happens. These bureaucratic autopsies provide a record of a fracture that has already become permanent. By the time the data is processed, the local tax base has eroded, and the worker has crossed the threshold into the invisible, fragmented 86% of the economy. Legacy systems only track the 14% of the market with a clean digital trail. The other 86% are the unmeasured majority. Because institutions miss the transition from the last paycheck to the first missed bill, their economic reality is lost. These missing millions eventually become statistical ghosts inside corporate and government databases. We are currently building advanced automation models on data that ignores the foundation of the economy. This reliance on hallucinated averages is steering the global system toward a total collapse of accuracy. This creates synthetic model collapse. AI labs and hyperscalers are training frontier models on the distorted data of statistical ghosts, optimizing for a version of the economy that no longer exists. While digital models hallucinate, the physical economy stalls. Tech companies demand massive grid power based on speculative data. Bureaucracy cannot manage 280 gigawatts of conflicting intent, creating a backlog of phantom requests that clog the system for years. When you aggregate the losses of millions of untreated workers with the billions trapped in grid deposits, the true scale of the fracture becomes clear. This friction has created $7 trillion in dead capital, a massive market that has permanently exited the formal economy. Our planetary substrate is only 2/3 built. Layer 1 moves atoms through grids and pipes. Layer 2 routes information through the internet. The missing architecture is Layer 3, the completion layer. Its purpose is to route value, attest truth, and close the gap between institutional assumptions and lived reality. Activating this layer requires a calibration hub. This unites a state, grid operator, anchoring utility, and an enterprise entity into a single network. This establishes a thermodynamically closed market, creating a stable environment that halts the economic fracture on day one. Verification happens at the fractal edge. Every 15 days, humans use their personal devices to answer one honest assessment. Is the average true for you? At the same time, entities like hospitals and data centers act as edge nodes, autonomously validating their true capacity against their internal ledgers. The economic circuit closes when both human biological truth and enterprise systemic capacity reach a 67% consensus. This unlocks capital flowing in both directions, recapturing institutional bad debt while curing the survival gap at the edge. This 15-day recurring loop introduces coherent governance. It replaces slow bureaucratic autopsies with a living system that instantly purges speculative ghosts from the grid and the ledger. This loop acts as the native AI interface, a cryptographic grounding rod that forces intelligent models to align with the actual limits of our ecology and our communities. By completing the substrate, we move past the era of measuring dead economic ghosts. we finally begin building a living infrastructure that supports both the human at the edge and the ledger at the core.